One.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Brighton Town Board meeting tonight, January 9, 2019. Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to the first Town Board meeting of the year. Sorry we're starting a few minutes late. We had some technical difficulties, but we're always glad to have folks here to join us. And we're glad to have people joining us, whether you're here in the room tonight, and I see a number of people, especially Brighton High School students, and that's a great thing from the Law and Government class. But we also, we work hard to be as open as we can be. So this meeting, like all of our meetings, is available on Spectrum Digital Cable, Channel 1303, and we also live stream all of our meetings. So feel free to watch us wherever and whenever. You can pull it back up on our YouTube channel and watch after the fact. I would note that whether you're watching us here in the room tonight or somewhere else remotely, you can follow along with the same supporting material that we have. Here in the room, a full meeting packet with all the resolutions, all the supporting material, and the agendas is on the table in the back of the room. And if you're watching us remotely, the same material is available on the Town of Brighton webpage at townofbrighton.org for you to follow along with. We'll start, as we always do, with the pledge, and I will ask Christine Corrado to please lead us in the pledge tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And with that, I do want to welcome Christine, who was appointed late in 2018 to fill the vacancy left by the passing of our friend and colleague, Jim Vogel. Welcome. You have been to our organizational meeting. You have chaired your Public Safety Committee. You will be the chair of the Public Safety Committee and also a member of the Public Works Community Services, I'm sorry, yes, Community Services Committee. So you're, cranking away at full speed, and we welcome you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
In a moment, we will start with our open forum, but first I have a proclamation to present. And Chief, I'd like you to come up and join me, please.
Okay.
It's more fun when it's a surprise.
You don't say that to a police officer. He seems to be overwhelmed.
But today is National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. And here in Brighton, we appreciate our police department. The Brighton Police Department is second to none in New York State. The work you do and every member of your staff, both sworn and civilian, is committed to that same vision of community policing, engagement with the community in a positive way. But that comes from the top down, and we appreciate your leadership in that regard. So I'm going to read this proclamation. And whereas law enforcement officers of every rank and file have chosen a profession that puts their lives on the line every day for their communities. Whereas having answered a call to public service that is demanding and often underappreciated, National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day was created in 2015 to remember and honor the sacrifice, bravery, and commitment of those who are sworn to protect us. Whereas, as members of the Town Board of the Town of Brighton, we're proud of the Brighton Police Department for serving this community with respect and dedication, and applaud its leadership for seeking out and embracing best policing practices to ensure that all citizens are treated equally. And whereas National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day inspires us to recognize the men and women in law enforcement who help uphold our democracy, sadly sometimes at the loss of their own lives, and to remember the 148 officers nationwide who died in the line of duty in 2018. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and the members of the Town Board do hereby proclaim and recognize January 9, 2019 as National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day in the town of Brighton, and sincerely thank our police officers for their dedication to their profession and their commitment to service to our community. And this proclamation is signed this 9th day of January 2019 by myself and by all of my colleagues on the town board. And
Thank
I'll
you, Bill.
present this to you.
Thank you for the recognition. To say a lot of words, but we had a delay in the start of the meeting, and I wouldn't want to have to. But thank you for the recognition.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you. Okay. We will now begin the open forum portion of our meeting, as we always do at the start of every meeting. And as we deal with matters facing the town, open forum is an opportunity for people to ask questions, give comments to the town board, whether or not it's a matter that is on our agenda this evening. In a minute, we'll open the floor up. But if you are watching remotely, you can also call in during the open forum to the number 303-3060. That's 303-3060. Someone will take your call and share your comment or your question with us. In addition, the deaf community, you can call our TDD line at 784-5205. Again, the TDD line for our deaf and hard of hearing community members, 784-5205. Whether you're here or calling in remotely, we welcome your call, we welcome your input. So with that, I will open up the floor for the open forum. Mr. Jacobson?
Thank you so much. Howie Jacobson, Brighton resident. And first, Chief, congratulations. Both of us are former Canandaiguans, so we know each other for a long time. Well deserved. So thank you for this opportunity to present to you tonight and hopefully get some answers to questions that are of high interest to thousands of Brighton residents and probably all 38,000. By ignoring the town reassessment for the purchase of the Clover Lanes property in 2014 and ignoring the purchase of the Mama San's property in 2016, the true market value of these two properties has caused every single property owner in the town of Brighton to pay more than their fair share of the tax burden in our town. That includes everybody here because we're all residents. This board has allowed the town assessor to dramatically underestimate the true value of these properties by $7 million. Not a small number. It affects our town taxes and our school taxes. This board has allowed a special deal to the developer of close to $1 million over the last 4 years that they have not contributed to our tax base. What happens with that money is that all of us as residents are picking up that difference. It's totally not fair. In the spirit of fairness and transparency to all of us property owners, we deserve to know why. Our supervisor repeatedly states how important it is in printed and verbal announcements to establish full market value so all properties are fairly and accurately assessed. And you, our town board, approved the town-wide assessment roll that was presented by the town assessor, who I know is totally independent and operates totally without any supervision. But she came before the board and got approval. I don't know why this hasn't happened. And consistent statements to defend why the approval that you gave to this plaza site is so beneficial, because someday, in the near future or far future, we're going to collect $400,000 in taxes, maybe. We should have already had $1 million worth of taxes because of true reassessment values. So I have 3 questions tonight, and I'll ask them slowly so you can respond. How will you as a town board assure us as residents, 38,000 residents, the property owners of Brighton, that we will see true value reassessments on those properties? I'll ask my second question because it's just a follow-up to it. What's your approach so we can properly add the $7 million of true value to the tax rolls and correct the wrong that you have done to unfairly punish all of us property owners with the wrong rates of taxes? I'm going to save my third question so you can absorb the first 2 and maybe give me a response.
If you would, please share your third question.
Is the tax assessor so independent that she does not communicate with you, so she does whatever she wants, and it goes by the wayside? When you approve something, no one checks up to see what's going on? Because someone here must know what's going on. So that's my third question is that, and then I have a closing statement that I'd like to follow up with after you answer.
Well, first, I'm just going to,
Supervisor Maley, if I may.
yep.
As I think the board is aware, certainly as Mr. Jacobson is aware, he is the lead plaintiff in a pending lawsuit against the town of Brighton and the town planning board regarding the development of the project that he is referencing. And given that it is a pending litigation matter, I would advise the board not to exchange in a dialogue with a plaintiff in a pending lawsuit. All questions and all discovery matters in those pending lawsuits should be handled appropriately through counsel. This is not the place nor the time for those questions.
And that's absolutely correct. That is exactly, although more articulately, what I was going to say, other than to simply refute your statement. There is no special deal. There never has been a special deal, period. Other than the very public deal that was the subject, and a deal is not the right word, the incentive zoning approval that was the subject of 5 public hearings before the town board and 3 public hearings before the planning board, during which there was a full review not only of the substance, but of the environmental impact. So there never is, there never was a special deal, and I will also defer to the advice of counsel. Thank you.
Well, I
Wish to
appreciate
make
that.
a special final statement, you're welcome to.
Okay, I appreciate the comments, and I guess in court, when we depose the assessor, we'll get the real answers of how this really was ignored, because you're all responsible for this. So in my closing statement, and I guess, Mr. Gordon, when people are talking in the press and giving information, probably the same advice should be held as well. The town board and the town supervisor are continuing to operate with a lack of transparency and a lack of responsiveness. This is a good example. By operating styles that are not aligned with our Democratic Party values, the handling of this project has been appalling And based on the lack of transparency and responsiveness and lack of hearing what the residents are saying, it's not about the number of meetings, it's are you listening and hearing? This town board has caused the long delays in redeveloping the Monroe Avenue property. You probably have read the article in the RBJ. It's got nothing to do with the opposition. The town supervisor in this town board, although Christine, you were not on it, and Robin, you've recused yourself, the town board is the reason the site's not developed. Take responsibility, and probably more importantly, course correct, because you can. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobson. Is there anyone else that would like to address the town board during our open forum? Including our students. We always welcome your participation. They're here from the law and government class, I believe, all of you from Brighton High School. One of the great days of my job every semester is to come down and talk with the law and government class at Brighton High School. I'll give you a little inside information. Each semester when I come down, we conduct, just as we're doing here today, we conduct a brief town board meeting of a town very, very much like the town of Brighton that our students engage in. Some of our students participate as board members of that slightly fictional town. And it's a great joy, and what I see in that class every year is the quality, the diversity, and the engagement of our students. So thank you for all being here tonight, and I hope you enjoy the meeting, and I look forward to seeing you in class later this semester. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during the open forum? Hearing none, we will continue with the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just the one minor correction. So, noticed the date.
I noticed that too, and it is the agenda for January 9th, 2019.
Accept that amendment?
Thank you. We have motion and a second. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Can I have a motion to approve and file the meeting minutes for our December 12, 2018 Town Board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Next, public hearings. Tonight, we have a couple of public hearings. I forgot to mention, but during the open forum, we encourage people who are here for the public hearing to wait and save their comments for the public hearing. Since you all knew that without me having to tell you, great, but we will now open the first of two public hearings tonight, and that is the public hearing concerning the removal of trees. This is a matter under the town's tree law, and it's quite a lengthy list of addresses. These are trees in the street right-of-way adjacent to properties at these following addresses: 19 Model Lane, 15 Creekdale Drive, 47 Laconia Parkway, 69 and 144 Branford Road, 70, 78, 83, and 89 Kimbark Road, and 89 and 99 Penfield Road. And with respect to those, 81, I'm sorry. And 81 and 99, thank you, Penfield Road, which is a continuation of a public hearing that began at our last town board meeting. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been given in this matter?
Yes, Supervisor, a notice for this hearing was in the 12/27 edition of the Brighton Pittsburgh Post.
Thanks very much. communication was given to the adjoining
to adjoining
property holders, all pursuant to the town's tree law. In that case, I declare this public hearing to be open. If you have our meeting packet before you tonight, there is a very lengthy bundle of material relating to these particular trees. In particular, there are safety condition evaluations of the trees that we have had prepared by our professional, and is very much part and parcel of what we are relying on tonight. We also have an item of email that's referenced here, but I believe, Mike, do you have additional material that you're going to want to
I do.
submit into the record? Okay, we can take care of doing that once we're finished hearing from the audience. Is there anyone here in the room tonight that would like to address the board on any of those trees? Yes, sir, come on up. And if you would, just state your name and your address for the record.
My name is Michael Scott. My wife, Kelly, and I live at 54 Laconia Parkway, directly across the street from the tree at 47 Laconia. We moved to the neighborhood just over 30 years ago, largely because of the trees. In addition to making the place beautiful, they provide shade and oxygen and keep down heating costs. We really love the tree across the street from us. We see it every single day. It greets us, when we come home in the afternoon. It would be a real loss for it not to be in our lives anymore. We have trees on our lot. We take good care of them. We encourage our neighbors to do the same. Just a few weeks ago, we lost the tree in front of our neighbors at 40 Laconia. It had been damaged in the ice storm of '91 and finally gave up the ghost. We will sometime soon lose a big tree a similar distance in the opposite direction at the corner of Willowdale that lost a large branch a while ago and now has a hollow center and won't be long for this world. The cumulative impact of these losses is pretty large and really changes the character of the neighborhood, and I would hate to lose one more if we can possibly avoid it. I've talked to the neighbor who owns the house, Jan Quinn, across the street from us. Her email, which I read earlier this evening, surprises me. Apparently it was written after our conversation. When I spoke to her, I got the distinct understanding that she was acquiescing in the removal of the tree under the impression from the town that it was in danger of causing damage to sewer or gas lines. I specifically asked her whether she had been told that the tree was dangerous in terms of falling down, and she said no. The town had told her that it was fine and that the cabling that is in it was keeping it safe. There is some sidewalk and driveway heaving that could be repaired. I'm not in a position to speak with any authority about the utilities, but I do note that about half the houses on the street have large trees, and root problems are going to be a problem with any large tree. And any particular case, I suspect, comes down to a judgment call. If the tree can be preserved, we would very much like to do so. If it absolutely has to go, we hope the town will replace it so people in the neighborhood 75 years from now, when the replacement has grown up, will be able to enjoy the sort of beauty that we have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Mike, we do have the report here in front of us, but maybe you can address some of the particulars of this tree, including, obviously, there are pictures in the supporting material, but most importantly, there is also the report of the arborist. And
So when we look at that, we rate it for failure potential, how big that portion of the tree is that will fall, what it's going to hit, and then we give it an overall rating. Maximum rating, I believe, is 12, 4, 4, and 4. In each instance, the tree was rated as a 4 in that severity. So it's been rated as a 12, saying that it's a dangerous tree that is a hazardous tree that needs to come down. And the tree was presented both to our tree council, also to a Public Works Committee, after the evaluation was made, and everybody concurred. We do plan on planting a new tree in that spot. As the highway superintendent, I'm very cognizant or very concerned about unsafe trees because it plays into the town's liability. Once we get a report here that says these trees are unsafe or they're a hazard, it's difficult to say, just let's wait and see. The cabling, we've looked at cabling other trees in the past. We've talked to folks like at Birchcrest. We looked at cabling trees that had split. Generally, what we've heard from the landscapers is the cabling can work. There's nobody that'll guarantee it because they just don't know how long it'll work. So that's always suspicious. It's a little scary to us. So with those types of ratings, we certainly would recommend that that tree be removed. And well, being a Tree City USA, I feel for you, because being a Tree City USA, we understand all the benefits of the trees, the drainage, the shade, all those benefits. It's the reason we're taking the tree down isn't because of the sewer or because of the sidewalk. It's because it's an unsafe tree.
My name is Kelly Scott. I'm at 54 Laconia Parkway. When was the last time that tree was trimmed by the city or the town?
I don't have that in front of me.
I think that would be a good place to start. We regularly have our trees trimmed and cabled. And if the town hasn't been regularly trimming up the trees and taking away the dead wood, of course it's going to be a dangerous tree. That just stands to reason. And if the tree all the dead wood is taken out of the tree and suspicious branches cabled, the tree is going to live a lot longer and it's going to be a lot healthier and is not going to be a 12. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Mike, can you just talk a little bit about our tree program,
Sure.
work
Being
that's
a
done?
Tree City USA, we have an extensive program where we inspect our trees throughout the town. In several instances, for example, with the ash borer, we've actually treated our ash trees. So we take great care in our trees to try to save the trees. Our intent is not to cut the trees down. It is basically to try to save the trees where possible. So generally, we'll have a homeowner, or a resident, or someone who's concerned about the trees will call and say, we believe this is a dangerous situation. We'll send out our gentleman from the highway department who's trained in reviewing the trees. He'll make this assessment, and we've got stacks and stacks of these investigations. We'll present them, we'll take a look at the trees, we'll see how dangerous they are. If it's severely dangerous, for instance, I had a tree earlier this year where it was split right down the middle, and my concern was it was gonna break that night. So we had that taken down immediately. Generally, with the town, when we have these large trees, we open it up for the public hearing, so we can take public comment like yours, and we can take that under consideration. But I think we're very thorough with what we're trying to do with our trees. Again, so once the trees are inspected, we take them to the tree council. The tree council goes out, inspects the trees also, either agrees or disagrees. In this case, they agreed with the recommendation. From the tree council, we take it to Public Works, who look at the recommendation and either agree or disagree. If they agree, then we move on to this stage here, because it's a significant tree, it's a large tree, and we have a public hearing. So we're not trying to take the trees down unless we absolutely feel that they're a hazard.
I did go out and looked at the tree. I'm obviously not a professional. You can see these two major branches, as you can see in the photo. I'm not sure the three areas that are really addressed in that rating that Mike referred to are failure potential. Again, it's a 1 through 4 rating. Failure potential 4 means the potential is severe. The size of the part that's in jeopardy A 4 means it is in excess of 30 inches, and this, I believe, is a 37-inch diameter tree. And the target rating, which is the last criteria, references constant use. Obviously, we have a sidewalk and a street, a residential street that has regular traffic, and this tree is in the immediate vicinity of that. Unfortunately, with climate change, we have seen increasing number and severity of wind events, and we've seen some pretty significant damage of trees in some of those wind events. I don't believe, I don't believe what we're really talking about is danger to underground gas lines. The risk is to cars, people, bicyclists, kids walking to school. Those are the real risks. And having gone down to Greenaway, for example, after the 2017 windstorm, and seeing the magnitude and the number of major, in that case, silver maples, yours is a Norway maple, or your neighbor's is a Norway maple, come down in some cases, in one case, on a home where a child was sleeping and members of the family were there. None of us like to see a tree come down, but I think they've really driven home the message of the risk that's involved when large trees like this have that kind of, the fact that it is cabled is obviously an indication that there was a very real concern of the splitting. And as Mike has said, it is not a guarantee. And as this report indicates, there is as high a failure and impact risk as possible. We will plant another tree if the decision is made to take this one down. But I'm hard pressed, as much as I hate to take a tree down, to not follow a recommendation as strong as this one is. Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Having gotten the apparently mistaken impression from my neighbor that fear of the tree falling was not the concern, I did not seek a second opinion from an independent arborist, but would be very happy to do so if I had the opportunity. Is there a chance for that?
I mean, we can certainly have our own arborist look at it if you'd like. I mean, a professional arborist, we have someone on contract, we can have someone.
Ken, do you want to?
That's right, Ken.
Well, and again, I sympathize with your perspective as well. I think everybody on this board is a big tree lover, and I think this town board is very proud of its support of trees and green space. The problem that we have, though, is that as a municipality, we are constrained to make sure that we put public safety very close to the top, if not at the very top of our list. And we have more than just a single arborist report here. We have a process that this tree and this tree report has gone through. The town board years ago, about 20 years ago, enacted the provisions of Chapter 175, the tree ordinance or the tree local law of the town of Brighton, for the idea of protecting trees and creating a tree council. That tree council is made up of folks who also very much highly value trees, and they've reviewed that arborist's report, and their recommendation is that the tree ought to be removed for public safety concerns, sadly but true. And so it would be at a great risk to public safety that this town board would decide to ignore both the arborist and the tree council, the folks that have been designated to protect the trees, but also to look after public safety with respect to trees, and say that we should allow that tree to stand. God forbid if somebody was injured in the interim while we were looking to get a second opinion, that would be truly a tragedy. And we have no way of knowing, is the truth. What we do know is that we have an arborist report and we have a tree council recommendation, and we have an obligation to protect public safety.
To my surprise, the report that's in the packet, in the back of the room here this evening, contains this numeric score for the tree, but no narrative explanation for how that score was derived. I certainly understand the town's concern for safety and for liability, and I would not want to have the tree stay there if it's a danger. I just want to make absolutely sure that it has to go before it goes.
I think the town board does as well. I don't know that, because I did step out for just a second, if either the supervisor or the commissioner has addressed how it is that trees are selected for replacement, that is, where that list of trees comes from, because I don't think that you want just any tree planted across from you as a replacement. You want something that's going to provide that same kind of street canopy
Yeah,
that
well, we don't want
exists
a
now.
Norway maple. We all know that now,
Or a silver maple.
So right.
which is
so-
mostly what the neighborhood is
So
full
can-
of.
I don't, did you talk about that?
We did, Ken, and, you know, I know we have a list of trees that we can select from, and the trees, we generally are trying to get a diverse canopy within the neighborhoods. So we try not to specify a single tree throughout a single neighborhood. We select the trees based on, a lot of times we'll defer, we'll ask the residents what they'd like to see out there too. But the trees are selected to be native species, hardy species, and we have a select list, and we try to be very diverse.
I'm all in favor of that,
I
but
I
it won't
do
be a big
note,
tree for 75 years.
I do note that Ms. Quinn's email communication indicates her recollection that the last time this tree was trimmed by the town or by the town's contractor was in 2016. And dead branches were removed. At that time, there's some dialogue about the cabling, and as she notes, that cabling has been in place for a lot of years and is no longer really visible. Again, these are hard. These are hard, but
How soon, if we were to adopt this resolution as a result of the hearing, and this is the second meeting on these?
not on this one.
On this
No, only the ones on Landing, on Penfield Road were the carryover.
How soon would these trees be removed, Mike, if we were to approve tonight?
It's difficult to tell because we have a subcontractor that does the work, so we're sort of at their mercy to take them down. We'll notify them, as soon as I get authorization, we'll notify them to take them down. They could be taken down within weeks, but trying to work around their schedule, it has been difficult in the past.
And we've got, by my count, I think 10 or 12 trees here. Is there?
In addition to trees that were approved at the
Right.
last meeting. So we've got 15.
But quite a few trees.
Plus.
Just wondering, as a practical matter, if we were to put this one over 2 weeks to the next town board meeting, I don't even think we would have gotten very far into the list of trees to be taken down. To add this at the end of the list, would that be a burden at all? Or?
I'm going to defer to what Ken said. I mean, it's difficult to say when you have a tree. I'm always worried when I hear these trees and I hear we're going to have a 50-mile-an-hour windstorm, and we have a tree out there that has been designated as hazardous.
Although I'm a lawyer, I tend to follow lawyers' advice.
Yeah, it's scary to me.
So just to go right to the issue of liability, I do think that there would be a different position that the town would be in if we were not to take action on this just as soon as we could. Does that mean the tree comes down tomorrow? No. But if something did happen, if the tree did cause injury or damage, I would rather the town was in the position to say that we held a hearing, we approved it to be removed, we contacted our subcontractor and asked them to get it scheduled to be removed just as soon as possible, rather than to say we deferred action on it for 2 weeks.
I do note that, and I've sat on the Public Works Committee for quite a number of years, and 12 is as bad as it gets in terms of the recommendations. And I know we have the tree council looking at them as well. Is there the ability to reverse direction if, in fact, we were to see some sort of proof to the contrary, that it is not ready to come down? Always looking for a middle ground here, I'm sorry.
A plaintiff's lawyer would, I mean, I understand it's conceivable that there would be a different analysis, but this report is a public document. It would be discoverable, and from my perspective, I don't like to do it. I never like to see a tree come down.
Well, based on the report, based on the report, there's no reason this tree should not be approved for removal.
Correct.
12 is as bad as it gets. If someone were to come in with a different report and convince us otherwise, could we reverse direction? I don't know, but this looks to be a pretty severe hazard and should be removed.
To answer your question, as long as the tree is still standing, could the decision be reconsidered? Of course. Any decision of the town board could be reconsidered until the
Until it can't be.
reconsideration becomes moot.
That would be my guess, my expectation. Thanks.
Just a couple.
Is there a question in the back?
Jason?
I had,
And there's another question.
Okay.
So-
Excuse me.
Oh, is there someone else that would, yes, sir, come on up.
I came for government class. My name is Will Sabato. I go to Hilton, but I did hear something in his argument that I'd like to reinforce. I think that the town has a liability to maintaining recreation, like parks and trees, as much as it does the safety of people walking to school and people walking in the streets. So I would like to see a reinvestigation of I would come back to for the meeting, a reinvestigation of the tree, because if maintenance hasn't been done since 2016, then any report done is completely invalid.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Is there, Jason, you had some,
I had-
oh, okay, we'll let Ms. Scott.
Oh, yeah, I'm back. How was the assessment made? As far as I know, there was some guy taking pictures. Nobody climbed the tree. I'm home, like, all day long. Nobody went up in the tree. Nobody took samples. Somebody took 5 minutes, took some pictures, and split. That was it. So I'm not sure how they really could have assessed the tree in that amount of time in any kind of detail.
The only thing, it's generally a visual assessment when our gentleman goes out and looks at those trees. The last inspection was done in October 17, Ken.
So when was the actual inspection of the tree?
October 2017.
That's the date on the,
17.
2017.
Yep. Jason, you had some
I had a couple of
questions?
questions just for purposes of the record and the discussion. The tree council, number one, do they issue written correspondence talking about their recommendations? And number two, what's the expertise of the members of the tree council?
The tree council does issue a letter. In the letter, they'd indicated they concur with our inspection results. Their other conclusion is that a tree needed to be planted there, that a replacement tree needed to be planted. So that was what the tree council said. They all go out and take a look at it. They're a very thorough group. They're an excellent group.
Okay. And what's the general expertise of that council? How many members are there?
I don't sit on the council, don't sit with the council, but they're generally, all our boards, Jason, are very well qualified, PhDs, environmental folks. I don't know the individuals per se, don't know their bios and things of that nature, but I'm sure they're very qualified folks. It's Conservation Board, correct?
It's the Conservation
The
Board.
Conservation Board serves as
Oh, I'm
the
sorry,
tree
Jason,
council.
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay.
It is the Conservation Board.
Okay, all right.
They serve as our tree council.
But that's the defined term under our local
Yes.
law, tree council, and we've designated the tree council to be the Conservation Board.
That's
Okay.
right.
Robin?
I would just like to say that I think it would imperil the town to deviate from its standard protocol in evaluating the trees. We have the Conservation Board evaluate the trees. We went through the standard process, and to, deviate from that process when a tree has been given the maximum hazard rating, I think would not be wise.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board on this matter? Yes, sir, come on back up.
Doesn't have to just be on this one tree.
Oh, true.
So.
And if
for
you
the-
would state your name again, just for
Oh,
our
sorry,
stenographer.
Will Sabato.
Can you spell that?
Yeah, CZEBATOL. I don't understand the protocol per se, but there's always room for improvement in legislature, of course. I support the idea of maybe adding to the protocol, maybe adding sort of problem solving, because you absolutely could have, checked on the tree since 2016.
Thank you. I would just note, though, that along our streets, we have thousands and thousands and thousands of trees. Actually, the fact that it was inspected as recently as 2016, 17,
October
I'm
2nd,
sorry.
2017. was
That
the last-
inspection and a previous trimming in 2016 does indicate actually a pretty high level of attention to that particular tree. I mean, I understand, and we may look at our own trees in our own yards differently, but there are something in the neighborhood of 14,000 different properties in the town, many, probably most of which have trees that are in the right-of-way. So we really are. We're talking about a major, major undertaking to conduct inspections of all of those trees. I do. I don't like to, but when I see, the tree, the photographs, but most importantly, the assessment, and which was affirmed by the tree council based on, at least 2 trips, one in 16 to trim, one in 17 to inspect. That's, to me, a pretty significant level of oversight. But I appreciate your concern.
I'm just a kid, but
No, you're not just a kid. You're giving us good analysis.
We appreciate your opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other? Then I declare, and by the way, just to be clear, if anybody has comments on any of the other trees, there are a number of trees here. I'm
Public
sorry.
hearing is open.
It's okay, I was just making sure. Jace Brownell, 89 Kimbark Road. I made the list. It's exciting. I have a degree in environmental forest biology. I went to ESF. Our mascot is the Mighty Oaks. You don't go to that school without, knowing, you got to know trees, or you got to grow up identifying trees and things like that. I'm here with a couple of my neighbors. We're in full support of them coming down. I had some questions about the replacement. They've already been answered. So I'd definitely be interested in seeing that list and what could be replaced and that kind of thing at some point. But other than that, yeah, we're here just in full support of it. It is definitely a severe tree. It's definitely one that looks like it could split towards my house. We sent some emails and things like that. So it just, yeah. So
Thank you. And you said you're at 89.
89 Kimbark Road, correct? Okay.
I would say for your information that I believe the preferred list of trees is accessible on the website, on the town website. I think if you navigate through,
As an appendix to the town code, is that the current?
yes,
I don't know if it's the town code, it's the forestry.
Oh, the forestry plan.
yeah,
I
the
would
forestry
say-
plan is,
Yes.
that's exactly where it
Yes.
is. So if you look for the forestry plan under our town website, you should find at least the preferred replacement trees, and then I think
What I would suggest
communicate
is
with, yeah.
just email me. My email
Okay.
is Mike Guyon. I'm the Commissioner of Public Works. It's on this website, and
Okay.
I can get you whatever you need.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Yeah. And if not, my wife's hankering for magnolia, so I can always plant one of those too in a little bit. So, yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Sean Cuddy, 84 Kimbark Road. I am directly adjacent to the tree on 78 Kimbark Road, which has actually dropped branches, which actually did cause property damage on my property, specifically my wife's vehicle. And I do want to say, first of all, thank you, Dan, for all your support and helping to navigate the process with the insurance company and the reimbursement there. This tree, while on the neighboring property, does overhang my property. As I mentioned, it did drop branches that caused damage, continues to drop branches, so I am in full support of this tree, along with the other tree indicated on the letter in the Kimbark area. I was also there when the tree on 83 Kimbark Road, which is directly adjacent, dropped a rather significant branch that partially blocked the road until the Public Works was able to clear it out. Almost took out the utility line as well, so full support. Thank you.
Yeah, I know the utility lines there are in very close proximity. I'm familiar with.
One of the reasons I started getting concerned was this tree, if it comes down, will take out all my utility lines, or significant branches as well, so.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that one coming down.
Thank you.
Patrick Belfilio, 97 Kimbark Road. Jason's tree at 89 Kimbark Road. We've questioned that tree for a long time. If that tree splits and falls, it's going to hit my house. I'm in full support. And in 2014, a tree that was on solely my property, almost 5 years ago to this day, split. And I had to call Birchcrest for emergency tree removal at my own expense, because if that tree actually split all the way and fell, it would have hit my other neighbor's house. And so I paid out of my pocket to make sure that didn't happen. So over the years, I've lived here since 2012, I've spoken to your arborists, and I was very impressed with their level of wanting to preserve trees. In fact, on my property, there is a pine tree that we swore needed to come down. And the arborist made some trimmings and things to that tree, and that tree's actually fine now. So I want to show my full support for the town arborist and the board, because I feel like their responsiveness to these issues is fantastic. So I trust their judgment 100%.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Hearing none,
Bill, I actually have one matter.
Oh, okay.
Also,
Oh,
I
and
wanna
we
read
do
some
need to,
records too, yeah.
we do need to introduce,
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, so I had received some correspondence from, this is for 19 Model Lane.
okay.
Correspondence from the resident there who indicated that he would like to see the 37-inch silver maple removed.
Okay.
Also, and this is for 90, 99, and 81 Penfield Road.
The arborvitae.
Bill Haydenek, who I've been talking with back and forth. He just gave us some suggestions on what he would like to see planted there. So, and I'll work with Mr. Haydenek to get that resolved. And he's looking, you know, one of the things he had requested is we replant arborvitae. I'm not sure that's really what we want to replant in there, but certainly something that will provide a nice screen, something evergreen that's a year-round screen. So I'll work with him to.
I know the space there is somewhat limited. There's the drop-off from the pavement level down towards the fence, which does, to a certain extent, limit what and where you can plant.
It certainly does. It certainly does. He'd also made
Do you have
reference-
copies of those?
I do. I'm going to provide them to Dan.
Ken?
Thank you. You'll notice in the list that I typed up of these trees, I did a fairly decent job, except I made up a tree called a Solver maple. No such tree. So the tree at 144 Branford Road is actually a 54-inch silver maple, and when you do take action on this, that's the tree you're taking action on.
Any further comments, questions? Either from the audience or from the board? Hearing none, I declare this public hearing to be closed. Robin, can I have a motion, please?
Certainly. In the matter regarding the tree removal at 19 Moda Lane, 15 Creekdale Drive, 47 Laconia Parkway, 69 and 144 Branford Road, 89, 78, 70, and 83 Kimbark Road, and 81 and 99 Penfield Road, I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Discussion. I appreciate everybody coming in with your, with your thoughts and your passion, and we will continue as a Tree City USA to, make our trees a priority of all kinds, and we, as Mike said, we're trying to avoid monocultures. One of the things we've seen in a couple neighborhoods is just a prevalence of those, as Ken wants to call them, silver maples, which are particularly challenging in heavy wind. And we continue to see maple after maple, but particularly silver maples. So with that said, we have the motion and the second. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Bailen?
Aye. Next public hearing is the installation of a stop sign at the intersection of Sunset and Orchard Drive. Dan, has the legal notice been given in this matter?
Yes, Supervisor, the notice for this hearing was also in the December 27th edition of the Post.
Notice having been given, I declare this public hearing to be open. And Mike, maybe again, you can just talk briefly about this intersection.
Sure. We had a resident bring up the concern that people were not yielding at the intersection. We're running through the intersection and into the main stream of traffic, considering an unsafe or a dangerous situation. We went out to take a look at it, looked at accident data, looked at sight distances. As far as accident data, it didn't really warrant a stop sign. But as you drive down, you can see that there is a large tree on the private property, something that is not trimmable by town forces. It's outside, it's on private property, so we can't maintain it. That does block the sight distance there. So we felt as a matter of safety that we would recommend that a stop sign be placed at that intersection.
Thank you, Mike. Is there anyone here in the audience that would like to address this proposed local law for the stop sign at the intersection of Sunset and Orchard? By the way, the stop sign would be on Sunset, westbound at the intersection of Orchard. And I see we have a resident of the neighborhood. Please state your name and address, Mr. Town Clerk.
Good evening, Supervisor, members of the board. My name is Dan Amon, I live at 131 Elmore. And as you mentioned, it is my neighborhood. And I just would like to, I don't know who the neighbor was who put this in, but thank you. Over the years since I've lived there, I've jammed on my brakes any number of times for folks coming out of Sunset, heading towards Monroe. I think the way the road is oriented, it's not a 90-degree.
Right.
And it almost feels like an on-ramp. And to their, the folks who are doing this is credit. They are looking at folks, focusing on the cars coming off of Monroe, which is very close to that intersection. And I think they just are naturally, and the road just kind of directs them right to it. Like I said, it's very much like an off-ramp. So I would just like to encourage the board to do that. Show, and anytime you want to think about stop lines at Orchard and Irving, the neighbors will be very in favor of that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board on this public hearing?
And Bill, the resident that brought this to my attention, and I appreciated Gary Gianforti doing this. He's a longtime friend of mine, but he saw a situation that he thought was unsafe and should be brought to the board's attention. And I'm very impressed how promptly the commissioner acted on it, and the testing was done. It was done in a systematic fashion.
We did look at it in the committee.
In the Public Works Committee and in the Public Safety.
Good. Any further comments, either from the public or members of the board? Hearing none, I declare this public hearing to be closed. Christine, would you make a motion on this proposed local law?
Yes, on the matter of the installation of a stop sign at the intersection of Sunset and Orchard Drives, I move to adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePoncio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Thank you. Thank you to our stenographer. Appreciate it. Can I have a motion to receive and file matters of communication?
So moved.
Second.
We have three items tonight. The first one is from Sarah Brancatella, who is Associate Counsel at the State Association of Towns, sharing with us a decision of the New York State Court of Appeals in which the Court of Appeals sided with local governments and ruled against T-Mobile relating to the valuation of telecommunications property and that it should be taxed as real property. It is somewhat of an esoteric issue, but it actually is an issue that is important to local communities in terms of how the assessment for those matters is resolved. And I mention it only because the State Association of Towns was involved in this case, submitting what is called an amicus brief in support of the position of the municipalities at issue in that matter. And I appreciate when the Association of Towns does that on behalf of the local municipalities that it represents and advocates for. I would also note that we have, as we do every year, the report of the town historian for 2018, which summarizes the wide variety of work that historian Mary Jo Lanphier provides to the town. And we're really grateful for that, collaborating with other town members, town staff members, giving talks, touring the public the Brooklyn House for students, and just so many things that Mary Jo does every year. So I appreciate that report. And finally, a note from Rich Wagner thanking me specifically, but no, I want to thank Rich. Rich and his wife. He's thanking me for attending the annual Veterans Luncheon, which is held on Pearl Harbor Day, December 7th. but the thanks really goes to Rich and his wife, who works at the VA Center, who for now 15 years have put on this luncheon, reached out to restaurants to get food, worked with the VA, worked with Goodwill, worked with Brighten Your Wardrobe to make sure that veterans who are struggling, and I hate to hear the words veterans and struggling in the same sentence, but there are some. There are too many of them. And this event gives them an opportunity not only to gather with their fellow veterans and have a meal, but also to get some gift cards and winter clothing and things like that. So big thanks to the Wagner family and to our town staff and even retired. This is such a great event. Several of our retired town staff members come back each year just to work at this event. So those are the communications we have. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on any of those? I know I can't remember if all of you were there, but I know at least Christine, that was before you were on the board, but I think the rest of you were at that event or certainly have been at that event over the years. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonte?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Committee reports, community services. Robin.
Thanks. The Community Services Committee met on December 19th at 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside School as usual. Among the items that we discussed were in open forum. We had Marilyn Rosen join us from Community Uprooting Racism in Brighton, and we had a discussion about creating a portable display of local African American historical material using material that has already been compiled by Mary Jo Lamphere, our town historian. CURB is Community Uprooting Racism in Brighton is often called, would like to see the information reach a larger audience by having the ability to mount it and display it in multiple locations around town. So pricing is currently being sought and we're looking for funding to purchase the display screens. In addition, CURB would like to see specific material added to the history section of the town website that reflects a more inclusive history in Brighton. On matters of continuing business, with regard to the parks, Matt Beeman, our park superintendent, said that the Parks Department is preparing for a new budget cycle. The department has implemented numerous equipment repairs in 2018 that will get the parks off to a good start for the new year. A new addition in the 2019 budget includes money for gazebo repair at the 12 Corners, whose maintenance responsibilities have been transferred from our highway department. Matt has been in ongoing discussions with the Lorax Club at Brighton High School, which would like to continue in focus on tree planting at Buckland Park. We talked about how important tree canopies are. They'd like to add to the 25 to 30 trees that have already been planted in 2018, and Mitch Nellis of the Sustainability Oversight Committee has been a partner and liaison to the Lorax group. Ideally, we'd like to continue this approach in planting trees and growing community partnerships to enhance the parks and increase the shade in our parks. There's a goal to plant in between the ash trees at Meridian Center Park so that those trees will be established in the event that we lose any ash trees to disease. From our recreation department, Rebecca Cotter notified us that the winter spring brochure is out and available. I'm sure everybody has received that in their mailbox at this point. Resident and non-resident registration for winter programming is already in progress. The department is also very happy to report that with the changes that have been made to the brochure, it has been made more appealing to our users. In addition, there was discussion of Brighton Central School District construction projects and its impact to major recreation programming, in particular alternate locations for summer camp programming and the impacts of that construction will have for this summer were discussed, and also subsequent summers throughout the 2021 capital improvement phase. BCSD has been a good partner in sharing that information about what they're doing and what they are doing to accommodate our programs, but inevitably we anticipate there will be impacts to program offerings in terms of the number of children that we can serve. The Recreation Department is committed to finding creative ways to minimize the impacts and safely serve as many families as possible. In addition to that, we discussed our Buckland Farmhouse enhanced programming and planning in that regard. A docent handbook will be generated and a schedule of programs is being developed in effort to recruit a docent. We have a solicitation in this winter spring recreation brochure. We also had a few updates with regard to the winter farm market. Contracts have been finalized at this point with BLM Construction for phase 1 of the market. We're anticipating a January groundbreaking ceremony, and phase 2 is being created now, and that will include mostly site infrastructure, parking, utilities, trails, et cetera. We had an additional update with regard to our Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Advisory Committee. An RFP for a consultant has been finalized and has been published for response. We are taking steps to ensure that the RFP is seen by diverse groups. Responses are due January 18th at 5 p.m. The consultant will work with our already assembled committee of 18 that has been finalized. Our community choice aggregation law update was that the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, has now been adopted by the towns of Brighton, Irondequoit, and Pittsford, as well as the village of Pittsford, and we are moving forward with a draft RFP. And an update to our beautification committee, the membership of 7 has been finalized. Members are in the process of being sworn in. I think everybody has now been sworn in. So we will begin work early this year, immediately focusing on our Clean Sweep event and hoping to engage the chamber and other community organizations to make sure that our efforts are inclusive of all segments of town. We had a small update on the Brighton Safe Streets for All. We've been in communications with various stakeholders, both neighborhood groups and support organizations, and we are moving forward with a behavioral change initiative in Brighton that will involve the PACE car program. We are looking at the Rochester-based program as a model, and we plan to do more data acquisition to make sure that the program is effective. We also talked for a little bit about the Drive to Be Better initiative and why the PACE program is perhaps a better fit for the town of Brighton. And we discussed the potential for collaboration with the Pittsford Bike Walk initiative to create continuity between our two jurisdictions. Christine Corrado met with Renee Stetzer over at Reconnect, and also Renee is also a member of Pittsburgh Bike Walk to discuss the potential avenues for collaboration. And finally, we had an update on the Brighton Farmers Market from Sue Gardner-Smith. The market, of course, is finishing out its 11th year, so it was the 10th anniversary season. This summer season was terrific with great crowds, filled to capacity with all 50 vendors each week. The market adheres to a philosophy of sustainability, sustainably produced foods and agricultural products, and we also tend to be very community-oriented, engaging groups and through our special events. We did have an update that in 2017, 2,500 pounds of food was donated to the Brighton Food Cupboard. And I don't know that everybody knows this, but the SNAP program is accepted at Brighton Farmers Market. And that enables people with benefit cards to purchase fresh local produce. We also had an update on our community garden, which is also in its 10th year. There are 100 plots, and I think we were near capacity, but not quite full this season. Woodchucks continue to be a problem. And that concludes what we discussed. We do have some upcoming events on Monday, January 21st. The Black Storytelling League will have a Martin Luther King Day Jr. event at 11 a.m. at the Brighton Memorial Library. And we also are anticipating our Cabin Fever Brighton Recreation Program on Sunday, January 27th at the Brighton Farmers Market, at the Indoor Farmers Market. We will have direct sales vendors, Brighton Wardrobe Sale, and it will occur concurrently with the market. Our semi-annual DA Pharmaceutical Take-Back Day will be on Saturday, April 27th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Our Brighton Little League Opening Day for 2019 will be on Saturday, May 4th. Brighton Annual Clean Sweep for 2019 will be on Saturday, May 11th, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And our semi-annual Electronics Recycling and Document Shredding event will be on Saturday, May 18th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. So I'll continue to update you on those dates. Our next meeting of the Community Services Committee will be on Wednesday, January 16th, 2019 at 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside School, 220 Idlewood Road. As always, members of the public are welcome to attend.
Phew. It's a lot. Well, thank you, Robin.
It was a big
And just one, hot off the presses, that groundbreaking ceremony for the Winter Farmers Market is going to be held a week from Friday, January 18th, 9:30 in the morning. Very excited, on site at the barn, the cinder block barn that will be the first phase of the market construction. So the public is very much welcome. It's an exciting event. Thanks for that committee report, Robin. Jason, Finance.
Yes, the Finance Administrative Services Committee met last Wednesday, January 2nd, immediately after our organizational meeting. Each of the items that were discussed in our committee will be reviewed in further detail at tonight's town board meeting. Our next meeting will be held on Tuesday, January 15th. We meet in the Stage Conference Room here in Town Hall at 3:30 in the afternoon, and the public is invited to attend.
I think
Thanks,
there's a
Jason.
room change. Is that the date we have a room change, Jason?
Oh, yes, that is being changed. Thank you. Date change. We have our auditors coming to it, and they need space to work. So we will be meeting in the downstairs meeting room here at Town Hall, Tuesday, January 15th, 3:30 in the afternoon.
Thanks. Christine, Public Safety.
Public safety. So public safety met yesterday morning at 8 o'clock here in Town Hall downstairs. Had the pleasure of chairing it for the first time, but I thank Chris
Bravo,
Werner
well done.
for holding down the fort in the interim. So,
You're very welcome.
and I thank all who serve on the committee for keeping us all well informed. My update will be more in line with Jason's than Robin's. It was an efficient meeting. We clocked in under an hour. So Brighton Ambulance shares that in 2018, they had 6,002 calls for service. That was up about 4.5% from prior years, but it's all to the good. We're protecting the town. Brighton Fire Department year-to-date has had 32 calls, and that is under the new chief, Aaron Hiller. He was elected chief of the department, and Chief McAdam retired after 7 years of service.
Retired as chief.
As chief, yes,
Yeah.
I should say. Still on board. The fire department has held a community information meeting for District 3 regarding staffing of that station and the others. It was determined that there will be a community committee to further investigate the balance of staffing. That committee should be staffed seated by the end of this month. Applications are under review at this time. Public Works was in attendance, addressing the French Road sidewalk situation in front of the French Road Elementary School. The sidewalks will be extended. A grant has been secured. There was discussion regarding a mid-block crossing to accommodate the children who often prefer to take the most direct route from their neighborhood to the school at their peril. There will be further consideration of how best to protect them with a crossing, striping, and other accommodations. The neighborhood concerns regarding speed on Torrington Drive and on Brooklawn Drive, Chief Henderson and Mike Guyan gave us an update on the continued traffic calming measures and enforcement, as well as data collection along Brooklawn Drive. They are continuing to give close attention to that and considering best approaches in terms of behavior modification rather than infrastructure change. Councilmember Werner brought a firearm storage draft legislation to be reviewed. It will be further refined to ensure that our town has strong guidelines for resident safety and safe storage of firearms, personal firearms. Further, representatives from the Brighton Central School District were in attendance to address the neighborhood concerns related to parking and safety when the Council Rock expansion gets underway this season. Public safety, the police department will address safety concerns and ticketing, and Public Works will consider the placement of no parking signs along Roland Parkway and, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, was there a second street?
They were talking about also some stuff at Governor, primarily Roland Parkway.
But I potentially
Babcock.
and other streets ultimately when we are able to take action on a local law.
Right. But in the short term, I'll be issuing a temporary police order for parking restrictions.
So all of that should minimize the impact of the extensive construction that will be done there. Further, the school district will be arranging for off-site parking for workers and shuttling them in, so that will minimize impact as well. And that, I believe, covers the scope of the discussion. The next meeting will be at 8 o'clock in the morning on February 12th in the lower conference room, and public is welcome to attend.
Thank you, Christine. Chris, Public Works.
Public Works met on January 8th at 9 o'clock, just yesterday. At the open forum, a resident came in and asked that we consider installing stop signs along Ashbourne Road at the intersection of Brantford and Commonwealth. Commissioner Guyan indicates that he will undertake the usual studies to look at that, but there's general positive discussion that it was an area that could where safety could be enhanced somewhat by the installation of stop signs.
And just to be clear, those stop signs would be not on Ashbourne, but they would be on Brantford and
Commonwealth.
Commonwealth, where they dead end. Of course, Judy.
Judy Schwartz, Ashbourne Road.
Yeah, Judy Schwartz, 179 Ashbourne Road. As someone who travels those streets fairly often, I do want to say that part of the problem is, as much as I love landscaping and so on, it is right out there, and you really have to edge out very slowly to make either a left or a right. It's really, really dangerous. So I applaud the stop signs. We have one down on Chelmsford going out into Hillside or coming down Ashbourne. But that's part of the issue too, and I don't know, I offer that up as maybe something to look into. It is in the town right of way because it's right out at the street, but it is on people's lawns. So maybe something could be considered in that direction at the same time of putting up the signs?
Yeah, well, Mike is out there.
Because we do have a law that allows us to trim, you know, and we're conscious of the sort of the triangle as we refer to it, because you're absolutely right. There is a visibility
Yeah, it's hard.
issue there. And sometimes even after you do that trimming, I mean, you don't have unlimited view, obviously. So that's certainly, we talked about it tonight, the stop sign on Sunset. One of the reasons that made sense, besides the non-90-degree configuration, was the fact that there are plantings nearby that do impact visibility in those.
Right. I don't want to disturb anybody's yard. I mean, you know, we all really appreciate what we've done, and people take care of it, but I think maybe people just aren't aware and nothing has been really said, you know. So I just thank you for letting me make that comment, but I'm really happy to hear about the signs. I think it should help. I think it should help. Yeah.
Also, the developer Ralph DiTucci came to our meeting with various slides and handouts regarding the 1201 Elmwood Avenue project, which is the also known as the Terrence Building project, which is the old Rochester Psych Center, and a very substantial development there, which is largely on the city side of the project, but I think it's about 40% on the town side, 60% on the city by acreage at least. On the Brighton side, there'll be an incentive zoning application. There'll be 102 units, I believe, that are being proposed there in both one-story ranch townhome duplexes and then a 80, I believe, unit apartment four-story high-rise.
Well back off the street.
Well back off the street, but it'll be on that long that line there, paralleling the neighbors' properties as well there at I'll call it Greystone, excuse me, Brickstone, excuse me, but of a similar nature. But I think of greatest note is of the 102 units, 10 will be affordable by the town's request. And
that's in keeping with our policy with regard to residential incentive zoning proposals, that 10% be applied as affordable housing, and it's important. It's important.
Not that the rest of the development will be unaffordable, but these will be affordable housing units for lower income folks. We had discussions of tree removal, which we again talked about here this evening. Also, the bid results have come in from the Highland Crossing Trail project. Somewhat higher than anticipated, but that seems to be the trend these days, unfortunately, but still within reach, I think, and we're very excited that this project is going to be moving along. And town and city staff are going to meet together because it is a joint project, the majority of which is being funded by the city.
It's a unique split. It'll be about a 60-40 town city split for the construction.
Which is the 60?
60 town.
60, I had it wrong then. But of the different portions, there's a large percentage coming in under a grant, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
I wanted to say 80%, but it's a little different now, but $1.3 million is funded by a grant.
Right. So we're very excited that that joint project is going forward. And that also that the trail will go by right along the Brickstone property, the line there between the Brickstone and the 1201 Elmwood Avenue project. So we're all kind of combined together there. Also, a discussion was had by Ramsey Boehner about the new 5G cell towers that are going to be developed nationwide here, and how that might impact the town and how best we can react to it. This is something that's being imposed upon us by the FCC, who have passed regulations essentially fast-tracking the development of a 5G cell system within the country. And there is some concern about what this is going to look like literally in the town, because the individual transmitters are going to have to be attached to poles. They're going to have about a 500-foot range, I understand. And they're also line of sight, so that the trees and so forth will interrupt the signal, which means a lot of transmitters on poles. It seems that the preferred location will be in the town right-of-way. The hope would be that they would put them behind the properties along our utility easements. But we have little or no control over it. We'll learn more about that as we move along in the discussions at the Association of Towns and so forth, how this is going to look. But it's apparently something that's seen as a matter of an important commercial matter nationwide, and we're to make way for it. So we'll see how that develops. Also, a no parking request was received regarding Edgewood Avenue where at Wintergreen, where there had been some parking on the street, which has impacted line of sight for making turns out of Wintergreen. And we are considering the installation of no parking signs, which will require a local law if they're to be installed, but we will also consult with the county Department of Transportation because that is a county road. That concluded the meeting. Our next meeting is February 5th at 9:00 a.m., and the public is invited.
Thank you, Chris. New business. Jason, reading and approval of claims.
Yes, Bill, earlier this evening, I reviewed claims totaling $751,970.97. Notable claims include to Civics Plus Incorporated in the amount of $11,420.74, representing the annual website hosting fee along with support and maintenance. Also to Paris Kerwin Associates in the amount of $164,951.06, representing January through June 2019 commercial auto liability and inland marine, which is equipment insurance coverages. Also the New York State Comptroller Justice Fund in the amount of $33,918.25, representing November court fees collected to be remitted to the State of New York Justice Court Fund. Also to Vehicle Service Group, LLC, in the amount of $44,242.28 for the rotary lift that was purchased as approved by the board for a portable vehicle lift system for the Highway Department, which replaced a 30-year-old lift in accordance with our capital improvement plan. Finally, to Waste Management, the amount of $69,932.22, for refuse district charges for December 2018, which is then paid as a district charge on residents' tax bills. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Chris.
Next item is to authorize the supervisor to execute a contract with Mohawk Valley Community College Transportation Operations Institute in an amount not to exceed $5,850 to provide one-person plowed training. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Can I have a second?
Second.
This is something we've been doing for a number of years since we transitioned our former two-person plows to one-person plows. Our goal is to make sure that as folks come into those positions, that they're trained in one-person operation, and any remaining, employees that haven't been trained yet have that opportunity. So
this is not to train one person for the plow, it's to train
a bunch of people.
To operate one-person plow.
Correct.
Because that would be pretty steep tuition.
No. Good one. We have a motion and a second on that. Discussion. Any other discussion?
Just
Dan,
clarifying.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Jason.
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize solicitation of bids for goods and services included in the 2019 budget. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
This is something we do every year, and the next one is a companion. It authorizes in advance the solicitation of bids, including bids under county or other cooperative purchase arrangements for a wide variety of goods and services that are required routinely by the Public Works Department. How'd I do, Mike?
Perfect.
Good. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye, and Jason, you can
Sure.
do the next one,
The
too.
next one similarly seeks to authorize a solicitation of bids for goods and services for town facilities as concluded in the 2019 budget. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Similar to the last one, except relating to town-owned facilities. Any discussion on that motion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Christine?
I move on the matter of authorizing an acceptance of donation in the amount of $500 to the police department and amending the 2019 budget to reflect said donation. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
It is especially appropriate that on Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, we do formally accept this $500 donation from Howard and Daphne Cohen. And Mark, anything you'd like to say?
I spoke to Howard, appreciated his continued support. He made a donation last year and told me to put it to the efforts of community engagement and security training, which we have coming up in the next couple weeks.
Thank you. And Mr. and Mrs. Cohen, we appreciate your generosity very much. Motion and a second on that, accepting the donation. Any further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Robin?
On the matter of the acceptance of a donation in the amount of $1,200 to the Senior Citizen Program Trust Fund from Jack G. LaBelle Foundation, Inc., I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
And again, this is a donation the LaBelle Foundation has made in the past, and we're very appreciative of their support of our programming. We have a motion and a second. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Christine, why don't you do the next one?
Certainly. On the matter of amending the approved meeting schedule of the town board for 2019, I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
And the amendment, we go through the calendar and we think we've got everything right, but we had a meeting scheduled for the night before Thanksgiving. And I don't want to disappoint anybody, but we will not be meeting on the night before Thanksgiving. We will instead be meeting on Tuesday night, November 22nd. 26th. Yes, thank you. We have a motion and a second on that. Dan, please call the roll.
It's late this year, so.
Yes,
It was an easy miss. Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Better, I need to get my eyes checked.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye, Jason.
Yes, the next matter seeks approval to renew membership with the Association of Towns of the State of New York for the year 2019 and designate the supervisor as the official delegate to attend the annual business meeting of the association. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Matters of the supervisor, just want to mention, sort of to follow on to one of the things that Christine mentioned, and that is the committee that's going to be reviewing the fire options regarding Station 3 at the corner of Clover and Blossom across the street from Mercy High School. Is my recollection correct, Christine? I believe that tomorrow may be the last date that they are accepting.
I believe you are correct.
So if there's anybody still out there, and you don't have to live in what they refer to as the Threes area, that northeastern part of Brighton primarily served by Station 3. They have received a number of people indicating their interest, but if there is anybody left that would still like to, they can apply tomorrow.
They can, and they can If they are interested in applying for the Citizens Committee, they must submit a resume and a cover letter explaining why they are interested in serving. And the email address to send that to is station3, the number 3, at brightonfd.org.
Thanks, Christine. And that's all I have. Ken, matters of the attorney.
Two brief matters. First, on the Council Rock reconstruction, I did want to let the board know that I have received and am in the process of reviewing a proposed road use and maintenance agreement with the Brighton Central School District for maintaining Rowland Park while it is being used to access the Council Rock site. I'll be taking another look at that. I've been discussing that with the commissioner, and we'll be getting back to the school shortly. I understand that they want to try to get construction underway by February 1st. I believe there's going to be another neighborhood information meeting on January 17th. The second matter I wanted to mention is you'll recall that earlier in 2018, the town was successful, along with the town of Arundequoit, in overturning in a court proceeding the county's unilateral directive that it would no longer reimburse the town on taxes, actually on charges put on tax bills for demolition matters and other property maintenance matters. We did go into state Supreme Court on that, and with a decision from Judge Odorizzi, we were successful in getting that policy reversed. The county has appealed that decision, and that appeal will be argued at the Appellate Division, 4th Department on Monday. I'll be going before the court to represent the town. Ed Primo representing the town of Arundequoit, and we'll be presenting those arguments to the court. I would not expect a decision from the court for a month or two after that, but we feel pretty good about our position. Judge Odorizzi wrote an excellent decision on which we hope the court will stand.
And I would also note, again, that is another matter. I mentioned the T-Mobile Court of Appeals matter, but this case is also one in which the New York State Association of Towns has submitted, am I right on that?
Only at the lower court. They did not, for some reason, participate on the appeal.
All right.
But I think we're in good hands, and you know, we hope it's an important matter for. I think your point is well taken, though. It's an important matter not just for the town of Brighton and the town of Arundequoit, but for towns across the state to be able to deal with essentially zombie properties and be able to deal with those zombie properties and either fixing problems or, in drastic cases, demolishing properties and being able to collect the cost of doing so. When the homeowner doesn't take care of the problem themselves, the town steps in and does that work, and we put that on the tax bill. And when those tax bills are not paid, the county is obligated by state law and actually by its own county tax law to reimburse the town. We're just making sure that the county continues to do that. The county wanted to back away from that, and so far we've been successful in getting at least the lower court to agree with us. We're confident that the appellate division will agree with us as well.
And that's just not a matter of our trying to pass on that expense to the county. By the county then reimbursing us, then they're the holder of the claim against the property. They then assess it as a tax, and it gets ahead of all of the liens on the property.
Just as they would with any other taxes.
Right. It's another
It's a government
tax lien.
efficiency. Is what it's a government efficiency. Instead of having each town and village set up their own collection operation,
Absolutely.
it you know, collects it with the other taxes, and it's a shared services. Instead of having 17 different municipalities, more than that, villages and all, having to collect these taxes, one government entity. So
And the entities don't have to compete with each other trying to collect their
From a
own.
policy perspective and from a legal perspective.
That's true, and then ultimately what happens is if those tax bills by the county then are not paid, as Chris just alluded to, then the county would then proceed with a tax foreclosure and sell the parcel and recover those expenses.
Right. Yep.
It only makes sense, and hopefully the court agrees.
We hope so.
Thank you, Ken. Town clerk, any matters?
Obviously, the has received their tax bills in the mail by this point. If you have not and normally do, please check with my office, or you can go on the website at townofbrighton.org/taxinfo, and under forms and documents, you can request copies of the bill via email. On there as well, as people are getting ready for their income tax returns, we always get inundated with calls from people looking for copies of last year's receipts that were stored in a safe place. So safe they cannot find them now. There is a form on there as well, so you can, if you're working on it at 10 at night, the office is closed, you can put in that request and it'll hit your inbox the next morning. Obviously, the due date on the bill itself is February 10th. This year that falls on a Sunday, so payments made or postmarked on February 11th will be considered timely. And, again, last year with the financial support of the board, we did install that drop box at the rear of the building. So if you're not able to make it during regular office hours, I always tell people if it's getting close to 5, don't, speed to get here and get a visit from one of our officers. Just take your time, get there after, drop it in the box, you'll be all set.
Thanks, Dan. Matters of town board.
I have a couple of recreation updates. So registration for all winter and spring programs have begun, and we do want you to check out our revamped health and wellness section. We have classes in PIO, NIA, yoga, and it will get you up and moving. And we actually have 5 fitness offerings in the evening starting at 5:30 or later to make it easy for you to stop by on your way home from work or get your fitness routine started for 2019. We also have availability in our after-school program. So if you're looking for quality, affordable, flexible after-school childcare for your 1st through 5th grader, Brighton Rec has options for you. We are registered with the New York State Office of Children and Family Services and have a high staff-to-student ratio to ensure a safe, fun program for your child. And like I said, we have spaces available, so please do check us out. And again, I'll remind people that we have our Cabin Fever Sunday coming up on Sunday, January 27th from 1 to 4 p.m. during our Winter Farmers Market at the Brookside Recreation Center, 220 Idlewood Road. We're partnering, as usual, with the Brighton Your Wardrobe and several direct sale vendors like Tupperware, Pampered Chef, etc., to bring you a unique shopping experience. So please do check us out.
Thank you, Robin. Any other matters of the town board?
Actually, Supervisor, I did forget one other thing to mention. Put up on the website, it's 2019, so we've gotten my first applications for solicitor's permits for the year. So as folks get ready to head out, I did issue one as well as one. A nonprofit did advise me that they'll be coming back to the town. So folks know this year I've also added a complaint form to the website. So townofbrighton.org/solicitors. If there's an interaction, we lead with, if you ever feel unsafe or threatened in any way, call 911. But if it's just a matter of pushy salesperson, somebody that did not have a permit, wouldn't show you their permit, any of the other violations, they're right on the form itself. If you want to just go ahead and submit that form. It's not that if you submit it while they're out there, it doesn't mean I'm going to hop in the car and drive over and confront them right then and there. But if a number of people do submit them, that gives me material so that if I do have to contact the company and potentially revoke a permit, that can say, look, here's a stack of complaints from residents. And at some point, if they do appeal that, it'll be heard before the board, and that will give you all material as well to work from. So I'm hoping it's on there now, and I'm hoping I don't get any in, because that means there haven't been any problems. But if you need it, it's now out there.
Thanks, Dan. Can I have a motion to go into executive session very briefly for a matter concerning the employment of a particular person?
So moved.
Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFoncio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Thanks, everybody. Thanks especially to our students that are still with us. Good job. Thanks for the input tonight. I appreciate it. I will sign any participation forms that you need, and look forward to seeing you again at our next meeting, January 23rd at 7 p.m. Have a great night, everybody.